Tuesday, October 14th. The phone rang while I was folding laundry on the same scarred oak dining table I bought at a yard sale in 1992 for $35. Sunlight fell through the blinds in soft golden bars, the kind of autumn light that makes even an ordinary afternoon feel sacred. I remember every detail because that was the moment everything changed. "Mom?" Marcus said, and his voice cracked like it used to when he was 12 and had broken something he couldn't fix. "Simone's parents are in town. First time meeting you. Dinner Saturday at La Couronne. Please, please come." La Couronne, the restaurant where a single scallop costs more than most folks' weekly grocery budget, and the wine list reads like the Forbes 400. I knew, before he said another word, that this wasn't just dinner. This was Judgment Day in a 5-star setting. "Sweetheart?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "What exactly have you told them about me?" A long, guilty silence. Then the words I had somehow known were coming. "That you work in an office? That you live simply? That money's always been tight." Tight. After 38 years of 14-hour days, night school classes with a baby asleep on my chest, promotions earned through sheer stubborn will, and climbing a corporate ladder greased with other people's skepticism, my own son believed his mother was one emergency away from the streets. I should have been angry. Instead, something colder and far more dangerous stirred inside me. Curiosity. Pure, surgical curiosity. I wanted to know, down to the marrow of my bones, exactly how gently, or how cruelly, these people would treat a woman they believed had nothing left to offer the world. "Saturday," I said softly. "I'll be there." I hung up, walked to my bedroom closet, and pulled out the ugliest gray dress I owned, a shapeless, wrinkled thing I hadn't worn since 2009. I laid it across the bed like a corpse and stared at it for a long time. If they wanted poor Alara Sterling, I would give them the performance of a lifetime. The rest of the week passed in quiet preparation. I rehearsed the role the way an actress prepares for opening night. I practiced the small, uncertain smile of a woman who rarely left her apartment. I practiced the soft, hesitant voice of someone afraid of taking up too much space. I even practiced the way my hands would tremble just slightly when I held the menu. Saturday evening, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Hair pulled into a severe knot at the nape of my neck. No makeup, not even a trace of the coral lipstick I usually wore to the grocery store. The gray dress hung loose and defeated. Scuffed Easy Spirit flats that had seen better decades. My old canvas tote, faded to the color of dishwater, the zipper broken for 3 years now. I looked every day of my 68 years, and then some. I looked breakable. Perfect. I took the elevator down, walked past Harold the doorman who has known me for 15 years and greeted me every morning with the same gentle, "Mornin', Nessalara," and climbed into a yellow cab like any other grandmother on a fixed income. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "You okay, ma'am?" I met his kind eyes and gave him the small, timid smile I had practiced all week. "Just going to see my boy." He nodded, and I saw understanding flicker across his face. He didn't know the half of it, but he understood enough. La Couronne glowed like a jewel box dropped in the middle of the city. Crystal chandeliers the size of small cars, white orchids taller than children, hushed voices, and the faint, unmistakable scent of money. Old, new, and everything in between. Marcus saw me first. The blood drained from his face so quickly I thought he might actually faint. Simone's manicured hand flew to her throat as if she'd been slapped. And at the head of the long, gleaming table sat Veronica and Franklin Whitmore, elegant, immaculate, and already looking straight through me as if I were part of the wallpaper. Marcus recovered enough to stand. "Mom!" I gave him the fragile, uncertain smile of a woman who rarely left her apartment. "I hope I'm not late, honey." Veronica extended a limp hand heavy with diamonds that probably cost more than my first house. Franklin's handshake lasted exactly half a second, as if prolonged contact might be contagious. They placed me at the far end of the table, the children's table position, though there were no children present. The menus arrived, thick as law books and entirely in French. No prices, of course. I opened mine, squinted, and let genuine confusion flood my face. Goodness gracious, I can't make heads nor tails of this. Veronica's smile never reached her eyes. "Allow me." She ordered for me the cheapest entree she could find without seeming openly cruel. "Something simple," she murmured, just loud enough for the table to hear. "We don't want to overtax anyone." I folded my hands in my lap like a good little widow and waited. For the next hour, they spoke of nothing but money. The $1,400 a night corner suite with the private terrace, the private shopping appointment at Hermes where they only spent $12,000, the new Patek Philippe on Franklin's wrist that he mentioned 3 separate times, each time angling his arm so the light caught the diamonds. Every sentence carried the same unspoken question: "Can you keep up?" I answered with soft nods, murmured, "How nice," and "Bless your hearts," and watched them grow bolder with every passing minute. Then came the moment they had clearly been building toward all evening. Veronica leaned forward, voice dripping with maternal concern that curdled the air. "Alara, Franklin and I have discussed it at length. We'd like to help. A modest monthly allowance, perhaps $700, so Marcus doesn't feel quite so burdened. In exchange, we would simply ask that you give the young couple their privacy, their freedom to build the life they deserve." Marcus made a strangled sound low in his throat. "Mom!" Veronica raised one perfectly manicured finger. "Let your mother speak, darling. I'm certain she understands our intentions are kind." The room went perfectly, absolutely still. I set my fork down with deliberate care. The timid widow vanished like smoke. When I spoke, my voice was quiet steel wrapped in southern honey. $700, I repeated, letting each word fall like a stone into still water. "That is what my absence is worth to you?" Veronica opened her mouth. I didn't let her finish. "Tell me, how much was the down payment you gave them on their house?" Franklin cleared his throat, uncomfortable now. 40,000. "And the honeymoon? 3 weeks touring Europe first class?" 15, Veronica said, lifting her chin with pride. $55,000 invested in your daughter's happiness, I said softly. Yet tonight you decided a 70-year-old woman who raised your son-in-law alone could be bought off for less than 1 month's interest on your money market account. Veronica's cheeks flushed crimson. Franklin shifted in his seat. I continued, my voice growing softer and therefore more lethal. "You have spent this entire evening measuring my value by what you assumed was in my bank account, instead of what lives in my soul. So allow me to correct the ledger." Marcus's eyes were wide, pleading, terrified. I turned to him first. "Baby, look at me." He did, tears already gathering. 41 years ago, I was 27 years old, pregnant, and utterly alone. The man who swore he'd love me forever disappeared the day I showed him the pregnancy test. My parents, God rest their souls, closed the door and told me not to come back until I fixed my mistake. I lived in one rented room that smelled of mildew and despair. I worked as a file clerk for $9 an hour and studied accounting at night with you asleep on my chest, your tiny fists tangled in my hair. I never took a single vacation. never bought myself anything that wasn't on sale. I climbed one promotion, one night class, one sleepless night at a time until I sat in the boardroom signing contracts worth more money than most people will ever touch. Today, I earn $40,000 a month. I have for nearly 20 years. That is $10 million, Marcus. $10 million I never told you about because I refused to raise a son who valued inheritance over integrity, who thought love came with a price tag. I still live in the same two-bedroom apartment because marble floors and sub-zero refrigerators don't keep you warm at night when your child is burning up with fever and you're counting quarters for medicine. I still drive a 2011 Camry with a dent in the fender because it starts every single morning without fail. And I still shop the clearance rack at TJ Maxx because I remember what it feels like to stand in the grocery line praying your debit card doesn't get declined. I dress like this tonight on purpose. I wanted to feel bone deep exactly how you would treat a woman you believed had nothing left to give this world. And you showed me. You showed me everything. The silence was so complete I could hear my own heartbeat echoing in my ears. Then, slowly, deliberately, I reached into the faded canvas tote, withdrew the matte black American Express Centurion card, heavier than sin and rarer than honesty, and laid it on the pristine white tablecloth like a guillotine blade. "Dinner is on me," I said gently. "Please, enjoy the rest of your evening." I rose. Marcus stood with me, tears streaming silently down his face. Behind us came the frantic rustle of a man trying credit cards. One after another declined. "Security hold," the waiter murmured with professional apology. Veronica clutched my black card as if it might bite her. I paused at the threshold, looked back once. "Veronica," I said, almost kindly, "the offer still stands. I will write you a check for $1 million the day you can prove, without a shadow of doubt, that you ever showed genuine kindness to someone who could do nothing for you in return. I'll wait." Then I walked out into the cool October night, Marcus's hand trembling in mine, the city lights blurring through tears I refused to let fall until I was home. 3 days later, Simone came alone. No designer handbag, no heels, no makeup, just jeans, a simple sweater, and eyes swollen from crying. She sat on my old floral couch, the one with the permanent indentation where I've sat every night for 20 years, and cried like her heart was breaking in two. I saw everything, every sneer, every insult wrapped in pity, and I said nothing because I was terrified of losing them. I am so sorry. I made her tea, Lipton, 2 sugars, lemon, the way my own mother made it when the world felt too heavy, and listened while she poured out 30 years of fear disguised as gratitude, of love that came with conditions, of a childhood where worth was measured in zeros. When she finished, I took both her hands in mine. "Simone, you cannot choose the family you were born into, but you can choose the family you become. Choose now. Choose love without leverage. Choose people over price tags. Choose to be the cycle breaker." She stayed 4 hours. We talked until the tea went cold and the sun set outside my little window. She left lighter, determined, and for the first time, truly mine. Christmas Eve, 2 months later. My apartment smelled of pine needles, cinnamon sticks, and the ham baking slow in the oven. The same secondhand tree I bought 15 years ago at an after-Christmas sale for $49 stood in the corner, twinkling with the same mismatched ornaments Marcus made in elementary school. The doorbell rang. Marcus and Simone stood there, arms full of presents, eyes shining with something that looked like hope. And behind them, unexpected, uncertain, smaller than I remembered, stood Veronica and Franklin Whitmore. Veronica's coat was still designer, but her eyes were red and raw. Franklin looked like a man who hadn't slept properly in weeks. Simone spoke first, voice trembling. "They asked if they could come. They have something to say." I stepped aside. We gathered in my tiny living room. Veronica's gaze traveled slowly over the simple ornaments, the faded couch, and the hand-carved nativity scene I made the Christmas Marcus was 3 and we had $23 to our name. Then she looked at me.
Alara, she began, and her voice broke on my name. I was cruel. I was small. I measured your life by my fears instead of your triumphs. I am profoundly, unforgivably sorry. Franklin's voice was gravel and regret. We cut the kids off, rewrote the will, pulled every weapon we had, and they stood firm because you taught them what we never could, that love is not leverage, that family is not a transaction.
Veronica reached into her purse with shaking hands and withdrew the black centurion card I had left on the table that night. She placed it gently on my coffee table like an offering. I don't want your $1,000,000, she whispered. I want the chance, God help me, just the chance to earn back the right to sit at your table. Tears rolled down her cheeks, real ones, the kind that come from a place deeper than pride. I looked at my son, at Simone, at these two broken, terrified people standing in my humble living room asking for a grace I wasn't sure I possessed. Then I did the only thing I knew how to do when someone finally chooses to lay down their armor. I opened my arms. They crumbled into them, Veronica sobbing against my shoulder like a child who had finally come home, Franklin's proud frame folding as Marcus caught him and held him up for the first time in either of their lives. Later, when the tears were spent and the cider was poured into the same Christmas mugs I've used for 20 years, Veronica sat beside me on the couch, her hand trembling in mine. I was wrong, she whispered, about everything. I covered her hand with both of mine. Welcome to the family, sugar. The real one. No price tags allowed. Outside, snow began to fall. Quiet, gentle, covering the city in a hush of forgiveness none of us had earned, but all of us had finally received. Inside my little apartment, beneath a $49 Walmart tree strung with memories instead of money, 6 people who once measured worth in bank balances discovered the only currency that never declines. Love. Given freely, received humbly, multiplied eternally. And that, my friends, is the richest I have ever been. Merry Christmas, Alara Sterling. Still shopping the clearance rack, and still the wealthiest woman I know. Outside, snow fell soft and steady, covering the city in a hush of forgiveness none of us had earned, but all of us had finally received. Inside my little apartment, beneath a $49 Walmart tree strung with memories instead of money, 6 people who once measured worth in bank balances discovered the only currency that never declines. Love. Given freely, received humbly, multiplied forever. And that, darlin', is the richest I have ever been. If this story touched your heart a way it still touches mine every time I tell it, please hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear that real wealth has nothing to do with what's in your purse and everything to do with what's in your spirit. And don't forget to subscribe to Tales of Aunt Ray for brand new stories of grace, grit, and good Southern redemption every single week. I'll save you a seat on the porch and a glass of sweet tea. See you next time, sugar. Much love, Aunt Ray, still shopping the clearance rack and still the wealthiest woman I know.